The snow in the Hindu Kush Mountains didn't just fall that night, as it screamed. It howled against steel helmets and froze the breath of men who'd faced death 100 times before. The air was thin, sharp as glass, and the moon was just bright enough to reveal their trembling shadows crawling across the ridge. The mission was simple on paper: eliminate a high-value target before sunrise. But in the unforgiving silence of that night, simplicity was the first casualty. The SEAL team was pinned down, trapped behind a jagged outcrop. The enemy sniper had found their position, and every movement meant death. Minutes turned to hours, and the bitter wind carried the scent of fear, cordite, and blood. Sergeant Mason, the team leader, had been hit in the leg. The radio operator was down. They couldn't call for extraction. The signal was jammed. In that frozen valley, 7 of America's best were trapped beneath the weight of failure. And that's when she moved. Lieutenant Kara Hayes had been quiet all night. Too quiet for the men around her to notice how her fingers shook as she gripped her rifle. She wasn't supposed to be here, not officially. She was a Marine sniper temporarily assigned to the SEAL unit for Overwatch, an experiment that many in command had laughed at behind closed doors. A woman in a SEAL op? They thought she'd break, that she'd panic, that she'd crumble under the pressure. But that night, under the cold gaze of the Afghan moon, Kara Hayes didn't crumble. She became something else. When the SEAL team froze in the crossfire, she crawled out from behind her cover, dragging her rifle through the snow, eyes locked on the enemy's muzzle flash flickering from the distant cliffside. The wind was brutal, slicing across the valley, distorting every sound. Every breath turned to mist. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Through her scope, she could see the faint shimmer of the target, a man whose decisions had cost hundreds of American lives. He was calm, confident, steady, and she had just one chance. Her mind raced with flashes of the past, the grueling days of sniper training when instructors told her she'd never make it. The jeers from fellow Marines, the whispers in the barracks, the laughter when she missed her first cold-bore shot. "Stick to logistics, Hayes," they said. "You'll never survive the front line." But she did. Every insult became fuel. Every rejection became resolve. And now, as the SEAL team lay bleeding in the snow, she knew this was why she had endured it all. The shot was nearly impossible. Wind speed 14 knots, distance 1,642 meters. Elevation difference almost 300 feet. She calculated in seconds what others would take minutes to solve. Her fingers were numb, her lips cracked with frost. But her eyes were unshakable. She exhaled once. The valley fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. And then she pulled the trigger. The rifle roared through the mountains, echoing like thunder. A single spark of fire and steel cut through the dark, and then silence again. The target's scope glinted one last time before it fell. The echo faded, and for a long, unbearable moment, nothing happened. Then over the radio, Mason's weak voice whispered, "Target down." That was the moment Kara Hayes saved 7 lives, and possibly her nation. Because the man she'd taken down wasn't just another insurgent leader. Intelligence later confirmed he was orchestrating a biological strike on U.S. soil, a plan that would have unleashed chaos across the homeland within weeks. Her single bullet ended it before it began. When the SEAL team was finally extracted, Kara stayed behind, covering their retreat until the last bird lifted off the ground. Her knees bled from crawling through ice. Her fingers blistered from the rifle's heat. And yet she never said a word about the fear or the pain or the doubt. She just slung her rifle, looked toward the horizon, and whispered to herself, "That's for every time they said I couldn't." Back at the base, there was no parade waiting. No cameras. No journalists. Just a small medical tent, a cot, and the quiet hum of distant helicopters. Mason came to her, leg wrapped in bandages, eyes filled with something between gratitude and disbelief. He didn't need to speak. His nod said it all. Weeks later in Washington, her name came up during a closed-door briefing. A general, one of the same men who had once dismissed her, paused as he read the mission report. "She took the shot," he murmured. The room fell silent. No one spoke. They all knew what that meant. Months passed before the story leaked to the press, stripped of names and details for security reasons. The world heard about a Marine sniper who saved an elite SEAL team from annihilation and stopped a terrorist plot. They didn't know her name, but those who served with her did. They called her the shot that saved America. Kara never sought glory. When asked later by her CO what kept her steady when the others froze, she simply said, "Someone had to believe we'd make it out. I just decided that someone was me." Years later, she returned home, quiet, unassuming, carrying the weight of what she'd done like a shadow that never left her side. She visited the families of those who'd served beside her, never revealing how close they'd come to never seeing their loved ones again. And every year on the anniversary of that night, she'd clean her old rifle, line up a single round on the table, and whisper the same 3 words, "Stay the course." Because for Kara Hayes, heroism wasn't about medals or headlines. It was about doing what needed to be done when everyone else froze. It was about finding courage in the coldest hour and faith when there was none left to give. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the silent heroes who serve without ever asking for praise, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who believes in courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable spirit of those who protect us. Special request. Tell us in the comments, what does true bravery mean to you?